Welcome back to Timo's Dinky Detailing. It's time for Andrew Price's Maple Leaf Customs Porsche 4 Build-Off. Every year Andrew Price has this invitational and just requires a Porsche to be done. I found this one. It's a real toy made in China and I got it for very cheap at the flea market. Well, you may have seen I had a preview of some of the toys that I got. So this one has been earmarked for this year's Porsche competition. I used the Google search where you take a photograph and Google finds out what it is, and it turns out it's a 1999 Porsche Boxster. I think it's a good looking casting, so let's go ahead. So as usual, the first step is to remove the bottom. This one has 2 rivets on it. And I'm just going in with the hand drill in this case, and which isn't the best idea because I had a little bit of trouble because of course it's going to skate off of the post, which it did there. So getting it off, I found that I was actually I had a lot of trouble, and I was actually breaking off these little tabs that stuck in. So here it comes apart. The windshield is riveted in. So I get out the Dremel tool and this tiny carbide burr and remove the top of that very carefully. I don't want to damage that windshield because it's in excellent condition. So there it comes out. And now for paint stripping. It goes into my container with some boiling water and some caustic soda to strip the paint. So this is an interesting model because after the caustic soda, nothing happened. It made no impression at all, except maybe some of the detailing might have come off a bit, the headlights. So I'm not going to be able to get that paint off, so I'm just going to sand it down a little bit, and then I will paint over top of the original coat. Now the toy I'm going to make is going to be a race car. That seems to be the popular theme on these Porsche challenges, and so this one needs to have a air dam on the front, so I made one out of polystyrene, and it's a couple levels. I glue them together and I'm going to put them onto the front of the car using some 2-part 5-minute epoxy. So I'm making it look simple, but actually it took a long time to get that thing on there properly and sanded and smooth. And so first goes a primer coat onto that purple paint that it started out with. Now online I was looking for this car in race livery, and this is the car that I found, beautiful red and green. I was running out of paints and not having any luck with my local dealers, so I got some stuff off of the internet and I wanted to try out if it was any good. And I had a lot of trouble painting with this stuff. I wound up having to thin it quite a bit, and I think I didn't even thin it far enough. And this was supposed to be airbrush ready paint, and I'm kind of new to airbrush even if I've been doing it for 2 years. But it came out kind of pebbly, and I figure I'm going to be okay because I'm going to sand it down and then I'm going to put lacquer over top of it and make it smoother. Now I've taped the top so that roof you could see was red. It's going to stay red, and the rest of it I put some more primer on top, and on goes the green. So I think the colors, and I used them straight out of the bottle because there's a lot of choice in that batch that I bought of the cheap paint. And I think I got the color pretty good. You can see that pebbly surface. And I don't show you all the sanding of it, but I wound up sanding it down. And I found this car, you can see, it was for sale. And so the great thing is I've got all the detail and I can find all of the logos that are on it, so I can match them using my decals. So this was a very fortunate choice because it was my first choice. It was the best looking car of this model. And so I made up some decals, quite a few of them. And it's a bit of a challenge doing these things, so it took a long time to get this whole thing ready. And I'm just showing you a tiny bit of the work in getting these things onto the car. So the white layer goes on first, and then my decals, color decals go over top. And on this one it says, I had to look it up, it says Rebecca Racing. And so I'm doing these things and I'm thinking, okay, I've made it Rebecca Racing, and so I went to look it up later, and I'll show you when I get there. You can see the trouble of these tiny decals. I'm used to working with the Dinky toys, which are larger scale, and this is a size like a Hot Wheel toy. So it's a challenge getting those little decals in the right place. So when researching all of these decals, I found that on the back there's the big double R's, and it's for Rebecca Racing. So I looked up what Rebecca Racing is, or Rebecca Racer, and it's actually a young lady, Rebecca Jackson, and she had a 4-year goal of reaching Le Mans. And she did race in the 2016 24 hours at Le Mans. I'll attach the link to this article and you can read about her career. She also raised money for for breast cancer research and for the Ayrton Senna Institution. So the detailing of this is a challenge, but there's a nice clear areas where the headlights and taillights are, so it makes it a little bit easier to go to those edges and not mess it up. Now these front indicators and the tail lights with the backup lights are a bit of a challenge, because then there's nothing. You just have to paint a stripe across the silver surface. I've had trouble with these before, but I think on this model I did a pretty good job. Now the original wheels are in good shape, but they're kind of shiny, and I wanted them to be more like the ones that were on the race car, which I put the metallic dark gray color, which I really love, and I'm going to use that also on the spoiler. And here's how they attach. There's a little groove that holds them, and I want to lower the whole body. And so I'm just taking part off of the body where the axle goes in, and having it set deeper, about a millimeter deeper. And in the end I think I should have gone a little bit further, but I didn't. So I wanted to take apart the interior so I could work with that, but it turns out that thing is welded in there, the dashboard and the steering wheel. So I thought, you know what, I'm not going to try and take it apart. I painted the whole thing black, and then I go in and I detail the seats, at least the center part, to make them red, like some racing seats. Now the windshield is in good shape, but it is scratched up a fair bit. So here I go with micro mesh, starting with 2400, and start sanding it down. You have to do this layer by layer. I have to do all 4 windows, so I'm speeding it up by rushing through them. But you have to do it thoroughly on each level, because if you miss any of the one grit behind, then you're never going to catch up again. You have to get everything off with each grit as you go along. So other people use simpler methods. They use the paste polishing wax. I have some of that, and I find it's not as effective, and you wind up spending more time trying to polish it with the stuff that's too fine. So in this case I go all the way to the 12,000, and it comes out beautiful, like brand new windshield. All the scratches were removed in the early stages. And there you have it. Now on the top of the windshield there's a sunshade with the Porsche logo on it, and then there's some Porsche Drivers Club as well. They're obviously sponsoring her car, or she's a member of the club, I don't know. So get that thing straight. And now we go to reassemble. So I pop that window in, and I don't put any glue under the window because if somebody wants to take it apart again, it's easier if the glue is just on the outside, holding it from the outside alone so it can be removed. And I glue these in. I had to straighten these axles. That was actually pretty easy, just with a couple pairs of pliers, and just bend them gently, and they straightened out okay. So now I put those in with the 2-part 5-minute epoxy, but I don't make sure that the axles in the right space so the wheels aren't going to be rubbing on the base or on the bodywork. So that's why I put that base there. So now it's all dried up and ready to reassemble. The base goes on, and what I'm using to hold that base on is JB Weld. And JB Weld is beautiful stuff. It's a 2-part epoxy, contains some steel particles or something, and it's very strong. It's not a 5-minute epoxy. You have to let this one harden overnight. So this is the last thing you do in the day. I go and I put some of this JB Weld on the bottom. And then I leave it overnight. Now, in the meantime, I designed a spoiler, because this car has a spoiler on the back. And here's how I wash my parts. I dip it into the alcohol, but that alcohol is so saturated with the resin that I spray it with some clean alcohol. And that keeps that big bottle filled right up. So there's my spoiler, and it goes in to the infrared light and gets hardened. Now I'm using this Siraya Tech resin. It only takes 1 minute to harden it. You don't want to put it longer. And here's the paint I used for the wheels. This is a beautiful metallic. It's supposed to be red. It's not red at all, but it says red on the label. But I love this stuff. It always looks gorgeous wherever it goes. So that this way the wheels are going to match the finish on the spoiler. You can see I've attached the spoiler. It's hard to paint this thing. It's very tiny, and I want to paint the whole thing except for the 2 pads that sit right on the rear deck. So I put it on this little solo shot glass and paint it that way, and it's on there with some double-sided sticky foam tape. So that worked well for me. And now to put it on, I go to the usual, which is my 5-minute epoxy. This is the one I get from the dollar store. It's better than the expensive one you get at the big hardware stores. And then I got to place that real carefully and get it straight and in the right position. There we go. So just to remind you of what it looked like when it started out, you might remember that this was my find at a flea market by the highway. And let's see what it looks like now. There we go. Now it's a beautiful race car, and I think it came out beautiful, and this is going to go to the son of my workmate, and I think he will enjoy this one. So I hope you enjoyed this episode of Timo's Dinky Detailing. Until next time, be seeing you.